bold journalism,
But Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
exposing lawlessness,
Hernandez, who is ideological,
finding the truth,
and use the word ANTIFA.
This is what they do.
Battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines.
What's going on, thought criminals? Welcome to Frontlines. I'm your host, Drew Hernandez. I am joined with R.C. Maxwell, press secretary of Project Veritas. Where do we start, man? I mean, there's so much going on with you guys. You guys are constantly putting stuff out. O'Keefe in the Project Veritas Twitter account reinstated, which is good news. You got butt plug Bruno being exposed, showing little kids how to use dildos and butt plugs. I mean, where do you want to start?
We got human trafficking as well. We're on that beat, targeting, covering Mexican cartels, Mexican mafia, MS-13. A lot of real news being done, at least at Project Veritas, not so much at the corporate press.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just got back from Texas, San Antonio. I can break a little bit of news on your program.
Okay.
We will continue to cover the human trafficking beat. That's going to be our next story.
Okay.
That's going to be coming out next week. The story is sad, just like all these stories along the border about the broken system and how migrants are just encouraged, not only by our government, but by progressive groups, by legal advocacy groups, to continue trying to make this trek. And it turns out, if they survive making the trek, you have a debt to pay.
Yep.
And that debt, can get paid or it cannot. And there are ways of making people disappear.
Yep.
And it's a sad situation. And if we had a serious country with a serious free press and serious government, you'd have the press interrogating the government, asking them questions, but it's only people like us, and we are vilified for doing so.
And I've always said this is like, President Biden is obviously a puppet, and Vice President Kamala Harris is obviously a diversity hire. But these people have been around for a long time, okay? President Biden has been in office, elected positions for longer than I've been alive. So for someone to sit here and tell me that they're unaware of how the cartels function on both sides, not only on the opposite side of the formerly known U.S. border, but in the United States of America, these elected officials, so-called elected officials, to sit there and act like they don't know what's really going on. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. These people have been around a long time, longer than you and I have been alive, and they know exactly how dangerous and vicious the cartels are and how they operate on our own American soil. So thank you guys for exposing this stuff, man. People need to see it.
Well, of course, people need to see it because that's the root cause. The root cause is the lack of information that people have. People like Joe Biden, people like even Donald Trump, elected officials, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, elected officials can only lie to a populace if they're uninformed and if they can't question, they can't interrogate. And that's currently what we have. You take a look at Xavier Becerra, who's currently the Secretary of Health and Human Services. He's not necessarily someone who has been transparent with border policy. In a normal society, he'd be vilified. He would be on his way out. But you fail upward in government. Government is so broken. You fail upward, and you do that by being beholden to the system. So if you talk to literally Joe Schmo, sheriff here in Arizona, he can tell you a whole lot about border intel. This group is giving money to this group, and here's how they get papers, and there's going to be a drop, mostly at these kinds of locations. It's a hell of a lot of intel. You would think federal government, FBI, would be able to investigate this, but no. We just found out that the FBI is contacting Twitter.
Yep.
And telling them who to ban and working on controlling
not
the
going
flow of
after the
information.
child pornography distributors, not going after the cartels that are working behind the scenes, out in plain sight in most cases, in some border states as well, not going after the real bad actors here in the United States of America. No, they're going after right-wingers and mega Republicans. They're going after Project Veritas because you're actually exposing and showing who we need to go after. Why do you think that's happening? Is that Big Brother? That's Big Brother functioning.
That's Big Brother, but also because we're showing them how easy it is. I mean, look, Project Veritas, we don't have a lot of resources. We're a nonprofit. We run on about, a few $1 million a year. We're not we don't even have the budget of a single. There's so many different federal law enforcement entities. We don't have a comparable budget to any of them. Yet we can take data from a whistleblower that says, I think these kids got put into a trafficker. Then we can go and find them. And on camera, they can tell you, yes, I'm being labor trafficked. That's a lot of hard work. I'm not taking away our hard work. But imagine what all these other entities can do. They have the money, they have the resources, they have geolocation services. We're not stupid. They can easily go.
They have the NSA. I mean,
they know what we're tweeting. They know what's in our DMs on social media. So I'm asking these questions. All this, the conclusion is sinister, right? When the government has millions and billions and they can find a trafficker like this, but they're not, then what does that really mean? That conclusion, I don't know what that conclusion means. I can't tell the world why the federal law enforcement agencies aren't doing what we're doing. I can say that we're in contact with law enforcement entities and they have, not federal, but Texas is investigating, Texas law enforcement, so one of the most confusing things I learned over the course of this investigation was that since Biden has taken over, he sent directives that stopped Border Patrol agencies, Health and Human Services, local law enforcement from triangulating certain bits of information. Oh, this sponsor is trying to request 100 kids. They could tell local law enforcement that. They can do drive-by. They can surveil his house. That information sharing isn't happening. It's like the government wants this to happen.
Which is pretty much nothing new, that you have governments that are involved in human trafficking. You have governments that are involved with covering up pedophilia. You have governments, this has been happening for thousands of years. So, it really is no surprise to me that our current federal government, which I hate saying this, that it's a good thing that this is being exposed. I hate saying that because these are real kids. These are real human beings. But on the other end, I'm glad it's being exposed because your everyday average, this is a right-wing conspiracy theorist, don't listen to them, is going to see this ugly for what it really is. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like that a lot sometimes, like covering some of this dark stuff. And I'm just glad that, God is exposing the devil. But it is pretty sinister that you have the federal government making so much cover-ups. And, the United States American government isn't a stranger to doing stuff like that.
No, it's not. And again, it goes all back to an ignorant populace. An ignorant populace is crucial for these kinds of things to happen. Because albeit, mind you, while the chaos is occurring domestically for us, random homeowners in San Antonio, and Houston and Florida, their houses are next to cartel stash houses. While they're living in chaos, the elites are robbing us financially. So it really just needs an informed populace is the remedy. It's the bipartisan remedy. As long as people know what's happening, we can lead to a promised land, so to speak, in terms of a renaissance constitutionally in our country. And getting back on Twitter is key.
Yes.
Sharing videos, like, as silly as it sounds, Butt Plug Dean, is crucial because you may be progressive or you may lean a certain way, but I bet you didn't know that certain educators are passing out sex toys and calling it education. Oh, and people are paying $60,000 for that.
Yeah. But that is what is currently, see, this is what I've been saying on the show, is it's not that it's just happening, but these people are intentionally doing it and they're trying to convince you that it's normal. Whether you're gay, whether you're straight, whether you're trans, there's never going to be a situation where it's normal for an adult so-called educator sitting down teaching children how to use butt plugs and dildos. There's never going to be a situation where that is acceptable or okay. And that is where we are. And that is why Project Veritas is important and imperative right now in the American timeline. I pray for you guys, man. I pray for you, James O'Keefe, because the closer you get to some of this stuff, that's when people start disappearing, man. But this is where we need to be, though. This is where we need to be, where people are willing to put their lives on the line to show the world the truth. And I think that's why so many people love you guys and support you guys. Where can people follow you and support you guys on website, all that good stuff?
Well, this is normally where I tell people I'm banned on Twitter, but I'm not. So they can follow me at Black Hannity. I'm on Twitter. You can also follow me on Instagram, RC Maxwell. Just look me up. Believe it or not, Drew, there are some people who dare to question the context of the butt plug video. I'm also the press secretary of Project Veritas. I handle our media portfolio, public relations. And a local news entity, I won't say who, I will spare them embarrassment. A local news entity questioned the authenticity of our video and said, what's the context of the video? Maybe we're trying to make this guy look bad. I don't know the context of, we took out dildos and sex toys and passed them to students and they played.
That's what I said. There's never a situation where there's never a situation where it's, oh, what's the context? Dude, there is no context, bro. Like it's disgusting.
Yeah,
brother.
Fox Chicago,
It's unreal. This is where we are, guys. Make sure to follow RC Maxwell, Project Veritas. Go to their website, all that good stuff. We have a lot more coming back from the break, you guys, so stay with us. And we are back. Joining me now is Frontlines reporter Kaylin Dalmeida and independent reporter, on-the-ground reporter Tomas Morales. For people that don't know Tomas covered the 2020 riots and was in Portland, multiple cities, documenting all of the madness. We've had some updates with Antifa. Losers like Chad Loader, Vishal, what's his last name?
Vishal Singh.
What's his name?
Vishal Ping Singh.
Right? So okay, when we talk about Antifa, these people we just named, real domestic terrorists, dude. Like, these people have gotten people physically assaulted, doxxed. These people are insane on Twitter behind the scenes, right? They've lost their accounts for obvious reasons. Now, I don't praise the censorship of anyone or losing their account, but I praise the deplatforming of domestic terrorists and people that dox people literally for a living. That's Chad Loader. That's Vish. Change my mind, right? So break down real quick, Tomas. What was the process of Elon taking down these guys that are just like pro-violence on Antifa?
Right. So it really took Elon Musk to take over Twitter in order to deplatform these violent individuals. So Vishal Singh, he actually slanders me. He lies about me, lies about Andy No, and he calls for violence. He actually waged war on Republicans, and it took an Elon Musk, a billionaire, to come in and just reset the whole platform and to really go after these violent individuals. Now, they are liars, they call for violence, and they were platformed by Twitter for years. For 2 years, they did nothing but organize on Twitter, call for violence, and it really took Elon.
Was it the shooting in Colorado at some gay bar or whatever? Is that what caused Vish to call for like a physical retaliation?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That was exactly the moment when Vishal decided, we are in all-out war. I'm quoting him. He says, we are in all-out war. I'm calling for all homosexuals, pedophiles, anybody who identifies with the LGBT community to take up arms because we are done. That is absolutely 100% undeniably what Vishal Singh was tweeting on Twitter. And
that's what caused Elon and Twitter to take action, because
absolutely,
it's not like a free speech thing. The guy was literally calling.
No, he was calling for all homosexuals to take up arms against anybody who may even be considered in a subjective manner against the LGBT community. Later, we found out that the LGBTQ shooter or killer, whatever it was in Colorado Springs, he actually came out as non-binary. So
and used they them pronouns.
Exactly. He used
and then they
they,
dropped the whole
pronouns.
story, right?
Right.
They dropped the whole story.
The story is completely gone now.
Kaylin, what have been some of your interactions with Chad Loader?
Some of my interaction with Chad Loader, he has...
And by the way, guys, again, these people we're talking about are literally Antifa, okay? Literally Antifa. We've been dealing with these people for years, okay? So, Chad Loader, what was your experience with this guy?
So, you could search my full name on Google search, and the first thing that you would find for 2 full years was a lie from Chad Loader's personal Twitter. You would find that he was calling me a fascist propagandist, and the only reason that he was calling me a fascist propagandist was because I wanted to tell the truth, and the truth of the 2020 riots. Anywhere that I would go, whether it be Portland, Tulsa, Wisconsin, Chicago, Los Angeles. He wanted me marked as a fascist propagandist, which was entirely false. He's a liar, and I am 100% glad that he has had his account checked, essentially, by this new Twitter 2.0, if you can call it that.
Yeah, so with Chad Loader, we actually have video of Chad Loader talking to the camera to his people on his private Instagram. He's saying, oh, okay, look who Kalen is on the ground. Look who Tomas Morales is on the ground. Look at his shoes. Look at the way they walk. Look at their clothes. So they were out to get us secretly and publicly. Publicly, they would lie about us. Privately, it was identifying. Yeah, we have to point out what they're wearing on the ground. Always point them out.
Yes.
And actually, they said that if they see anyone recording on the ground, to just come up behind them, and that's it. And they've been after us for 2 years. They've been after us for 2 years, and finally their platform is diminished. And with Vishal, this is how he covers. Well, it was a riot. So, and for George Floyd,
Real quick.
Yeah.
Just so people understand, these people literally coordinate, attacks on journalists. It's like a gang, dude. It's literally like a gang. In Portland, in Los Angeles, in New York, no matter where you go, you decide to expose these people or just simply run around and report what's going on, okay? The so-called anti-fascists are the ones that would literally use Twitter, not only to dox people, but build dossiers and profiles of their body types and what they would wear, but at the same time, while in real time, on the ground, you two know exactly what I'm talking about. While in real time on the ground, Antifa in real time would be hunting and looking for you. Why? So they could have a conversation with Tomas or Kalen about, the political climate, and let's have a good old debate so we can find common ground? Of course not, because they want to bash this guy's skull in, and they did physically assault you in Los Angeles. But I want to get back to Tomas's point with Vish. What were you going to say?
Yeah, so Vishal, he actually praised it when Kalen got assaulted on the ground. He said, "Queers bash back." That was his, identifying slogan. Vishal actually censored the George Floyd riot. And then when it came to Sean Fauci's anti-grooming Disney protest, already out of the gate, huge anti-LGBT fascists are on the ground. So the narrative is already baked into the cake with this guy. He takes 2 videos from far away in order to just blasphemy, people on the right, slander on the right, but yet he actively censored a riot. And he also goes and quarrels with the police. He has been beat up many times he has been dealt with by law enforcement because he actively quarrels with the police, and then he goes and files complaints with the police, and it
Police
comes back
brutality, police brutality.
unfounded. Yeah.
All that crap.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Kalen?
Yeah, what I was going to say was that as I was covering a BLM, I guess you could say, when someone dies, what do you call that?
It was like a vigil or something?
A vigil, absolutely. It was a BLM vigil for someone who had passed away, whether it had been through an interaction with police or, in some other way. I went to cover that very non-partisanly. I had brought someone else from my independent media company with me. And as I followed with these people through the streets, they somehow identified me as a threat, and about, at least over 10 people decided to jump me that night. And like Tomas said, Vishal Singh was one of the people who was praising it. And, that's who these people are.
Here's a nuance on the story, though, because Kalen was live streaming on Instagram this particular night. And people might say, what are you doing, you idiot? Why are you live streaming when you're around Antifa? This is America. It shouldn't be like that. If these people are not domestic terrorists, why the hell do I have to worry about live streaming around them? If I don't have to worry about my safety as a reporter and a journalist, why should I be scolded for live streaming? Obviously, we know it's not wise to live stream when Antifa's on the ground because they're constantly monitoring your account, looking for who you are. But is this not America, Tomas?
Yeah, so
are we dealing with the cartel, an actual terrorist organization? You see what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah. So we are dealing with actual fascists. So they limit speech. They use violence to limit speech, and they are literally fascists who just cry under anti-fascism. And Vishal, he just fabricates all of his stories, and that's pretty much it.
Well, I bring that up because in your particular situation, there's like already something built behind how they targeted you. And that buildup was they've always been monitoring you. And the buildup was when you were posting your stuff or you were live streaming, you had other comrades on the ground monitoring so they could pinpoint where you were when you were live streaming that particular night. But then you get so-called President Joe Biden saying that, Antifa is just a myth. Jerry Nadler saying it doesn't exist, all this crap, right? That it's just an idea and that they're not real. But you and I, both of you sitting here, know that these people are very real and they're very violent. And them getting deplatformed, not for their speech, is a good thing. Them getting deplatformed because of their ability to organize violence, which they claim is actually us. It's them. They've been doing it. They've been continuing to do it. And Elon Musk is the stabilizer, bringing literal balance back to the force, in my opinion. So my name is Hernandez. These are the front lines. I'll see you guys on the next one.